Oh, nice, okay. Yeah, that's fine. The link didn't work for you or
Like it's,
you have to log in through the library? It wouldn't.
um,
So there's like you have to log in with your student ID through the library, like, it's like a whole process. It didn't take you there? Not for you either? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'll check with the library. What was that? Right, no kidding. I'll check with the library because they send me a new link every year. But
it just
maybe it's
like
broken.
acted like it was loading forever.
Oh.
And then until it says that it's.
Until you gave
maxed
up, right?
out. No, like it, and then it gives an error message.
Oh,
So,
bummer. Okay. Well, thank you for
I
letting me
don't
know.
know.
I'll see if I can find out why it didn't work. That's obnoxious. I can't stand when things should work and don't. Like,
Uh,
it's these people.
well, maybe I have the well,
Yeah.
password, so I must have put it in before at some point. I was just.
All right, good morning. I wanted, like, this morning, I've been fighting the urge to say like top of the morning or something. I'm hungry. And, happy St. Patrick's Day. Is anyone doing anything fun? For St. Patrick's Day? Is anyone else on? I got my green, my kids like, maybe wear my green this morning. I bought them little light up bracelets, forgetting that they're like 10 and 12. I think they at that point, they're like, well, everyone will stare at it. I was like, well, I thought it'd be really cute. And they're like, well, I'll wear it when I get home. All right. But two of them, I was sharing with my class earlier, two of them still believe in like all the magical things, right? So we made traps last night to try and catch our leprechaun. He outcrafted the traps, of course, right? But we spent like all night like messing up our house. And then my partner took the tablet and she's like, okay, now we have to clean it up. This morning, I'm like, oh, come on, maybe let's clean it up. Like we put all the chairs up on tables and like we pulled out like all their underwear and socks and hung them from our ceiling fans. And then left a note from our leprechaun saying like, ha ha ha, you know, and like you didn't catch me this year. It was cute, right? I think it's the last year. I know that my daughter Emma doesn't believe anymore, but she's like at that point where she's still pretending for us, I think. But my daughter Paisley, like 100% yesterday, she's like, we have to make our trap. We have to catch Patches O'Hooligan. That's our leprechaun. We have to catch him this year. And so we spent like an hour yesterday making this elaborate trap, and then last night I had to like set off the trap. It's cute. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna miss doing that, but like, it's really cute. So I'll take it while it lasts. But anyway, today's just an excuse. I got like two different cakes that are St. Patrick's Day themed. That's my plan for tonight. Chocolate cake and a white cake. Gotta have one of each. I'm a Gemini. Anyway, are we excited for spring break? Next week, it's coming. So we have today and Wednesday, and then spring break. Okay, so what we'll do today is we're gonna talk about the worksheet, talk about the movie that we spent 2 classes watching, and then I'll collect this from you. And then after that, we go to chapters 3 and 7, so like communication, love, and intimacy. So we'll finish this up and we'll see how much time we have left, and then Wednesday we'll jump into that as well and pick up that. And it's a long break because we have that Monday off too, so you have all of next week's until us that Monday. Hopefully a nice chance to rest. Anyone going anywhere? You going anywhere fun yet?
It's me and my partner's 3-year anniversary.
Nice, congratulations.
So I'm going down to visit him
Oh, yeah,
in Fresno.
okay. Fresno, right? Well, at least it's not too hot yet.
No, it's terrible during the summer.
Oh, I wouldn't want to be there anymore. Anyone else going anywhere? Going anything fun? Resting is fun too, right? Like not doing anything is fun too. Right? I'm going to San Diego. Plan to eat my way through San Diego, through Legoland and SeaWorld and all those. I have lots of food at the theme parks. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm doing my stretches for the churros. So hopefully everyone has their worksheets. Let's go through and talk about this for a little bit. And I put this up just to help, because again, a lot of people, a lot of names. But I don't want to talk about all of this, but I do think there are some really interesting themes in this movie. Even if some of them are a little outdated, we can replace it with newer technology, and I think it has the same idea. But let's look at the second question for a little bit. This movie is all about rules, right? Rules for dating. And I would love your thoughts, right? So it's been a long time since I've had to date, thankfully, right? But I think this is something that's still very present, even if the rules are always shifting. So what do you think about all the rules in this movie? Are there any that like resonated with you? What are some of the things you wrote down for the second one related to rules? Yeah.
Basically, like Alex was saying, like, if a guy wants to talk to you, he'll talk to you.
Okay.
And I think that's very valid, because like in today's society with like social media, Snapchat,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a very big thing for my generation. And it was basically like when you were interested in a guy, if he left you undelivered for a really long time and didn't respond to you,
Yeah.
he's not interested.
He's not interested.
And I mean, it makes, if he wants to talk to you, he'll talk to you, because like, I've talked to guys before where they responded in an instant,
Uh-huh.
and I've had guys before where they don't respond to me for like 2 days. So I'm like, okay, you're not interested, bye.
Yeah. Is that true for anyone else? Would you agree? I saw some like nodding. You're like, yeah, if you're interested, you do it right away?
Yeah, no, that's facts.
Yeah. All right.
There's some people who do like, they'll look at their interest in their mind.
Yes.
They'll go and live for like hours.
Mhm.
They'll respond and then respond with some like dry ass answers, so.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
So, I agree with this, but also I realized, so I went on one of those apps when I was trying to, meet somebody.
Sure.
And I think some people just lackluster is a good word to explain.
Sure.
The way that they act, men especially.
Okay.
I think, and I don't know if that's just a thing because everybody's kind of guarded and we're all just like, I don't know, sometimes, even in the beginning, like, it's just very dull.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's their I haven't figured out, like, if that's their personality or if they're just like, and they're super boring. Or if they're just being guarded.
Okay.
I don't know.
Thoughts on that? Yeah.
And that's before a date, before,
Okay.
like, I don't know.
Okay. Thoughts on that? Yeah.
To add on your point, I think some people are just really dry texters.
Yeah, that's fair.
I have a friend, and when I'll like send her something and she'll have like a 1 or 2 word response.
Yeah.
And then like a minute later, she'll call me and do like an entire verbal essay.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, if any of my friends ever see our text, it looks like you hate me.
Yeah, but that's a really good point. People communicate very differently by text versus by phone versus by social media versus by email versus in person. Like, there can be big differences, right? My partner says very little by text, and I'm always like, why are you saying so? Like, come on, like, give me more. It's like, I'll send like a novel by text, which I'm sure isn't surprising, right? But I'll like send like a huge novel, and then I get a 1-word response, and I'm like, that took me 20 minutes, like, a little bit more, right?
Okay, or a.
Right, okay. No,
Fine.
my favorite is the thumbs up. You didn't even.
Oh,
respond,
yeah,
you
you
just
didn't
thumbs
even-
it
yeah.
up.
I literally
That's my daughter.
hate it, thumbs up.
Yeah.
I hate it, so I'm like, that is,
Yeah.
I feel like it's rude.
Yeah. Well, so like, there's part of me that's like, okay, at least I know you got it. You thumbs up that you got it. But like, you can at least give me a word. It is, it's like a meh. Like, it's like the least amount of energy you can manifest in the world, right? Like a little heart or a thumbs up.
It's
Point.
aggressive.
It could be.
Yeah, see,
I hate it. so
Okay.
much.
see how you can, I mean, it's so easy to miscommunicate
Oh,
through
Yeah,
text.
yeah.
Because you could be literally reading it, I don't know, and I can almost hear the person's voice and go, oh my God, that's so rude, or, oh, that's really sweet, but they're not feeling that way at all, you're just literally putting assumption into it, right?
Yeah.
Or, so that makes it very difficult, but at the same time, I think that people are more upfront and honest, but I think deep down, people don't really want that honesty.
Okay.
You know, like, oh yeah, give it to me real, but yet they really don't want it. given.
Medium real.
Right, right,
Okay.
so it kind of leaves that, so like when you're honest and then they kind of back off or then just never talk to you again, you're like, oh, well, I guess they didn't want it that honest then,
Okay,
so, yeah.
yeah,
I think part of it is also, sometimes people are just really bad at setting boundaries.
sure.
Like saying, oh, I'm into doing anything, or, what's it called, or. Oh, I'd love to know the real you, or blah, 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 blah. And I think that can come from, I think we live in a society that really values honesty. But I don't think we necessarily take a step back and go, do I am I ready for 100% honesty with this person? Have we
Sure.
set enough groundwork? As acquaintances to get to know each other's innermost dark secrets. And then, so they tell someone, oh, I'm fine with that. When that person does that, they're like, oh, that was a lot. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, don't tell people you want stuff that you
Yeah.
aren't ready for.
And it's a balance, right? You don't wanna do too much too fast, but if you don't do enough, then you're not revealing enough. I always think of a baby mama, if you've ever seen that movie, like it opens with her on a date and she's like telling her a whole life plan. And the guy's like, I'll be right back, I'm going to the bathroom, and you see him getting in the car and pulling away, right? Like, if you give someone too much too quickly, they run.
Right.
But if you don't give them enough, they run, right? Like, you have to have that balancing act of like revealing, but not revealing too much, but not enough, like it's.
Right.
tricky.
Like a tightrope.
For sure. Anything else? What about other rules? So we have who calls who, right, and when. Anything else that you wrote down here for the second one, for number 2? Yeah,
Playing hard to get.
okay, what about it? What were you thinking?
To me, sometimes I call it kind of like tease, like they're. Oh God, how can I explain it? How can I know? Why am I having a problem articulating this?
Monday morning.
Right,
Yeah.
so like,
Yeah.
playing hard to get, so like you're leading them on, right? But then you kind of like turn your back to them in a sense, or like
Okay.
thing, or ghost them per se, you know, for a little bit, and then you reach out, you know. Or you can even do it like you're on you're like leading them on, and then you kind of push them off when when they're trying to get
Okay,
more intimate or something, you know, you're trying to. I don't know, get
Yeah.
them to react or do more than maybe you want them in a way.
okay, yeah,
I think because, like, I've always been a very strong person, so I give all the first moves and like ask people out. And I don't know, I've kind of just been like, I don't wanna play that game where I wait for you, especially because if I'm not gonna do it, like, I get so impatient.
yeah,
And I've encountered people who have gotten frustrated by that, like.
sure.
Even with my ex, I kissed him and he was all pissed off because he wanted to do that first.
You do it, so.
Yeah. So I think like, when it comes to rules, like, I've wanted to like, I definitely agree that there are,
Mhm.
I know some people that like to wait until the other person shows it, but I've also noticed a lot of the time, like, it's guys and girls that they'll want a lot, like, they want a lot of dedication shown before they'll like get with the person. Like, I had this one girl that would ghost guys all the time. And she's like, well, they keep texting me, but I know they really want it. But you're not responding to them for like months, so I'm not gonna do it either. So I always thought that was kind of.
Yeah, and everybody having their own rules that you may or may not be aware of, right? But like you said, like you might have lost a few people that way or annoyed a few people that way, but you also then, that's information too, right? Like if they can't handle the fact that you're straightforward or that you might be, like that's good to know early, right? Like they say that in the movie a couple of times too. Yeah,
I think an important one that we touched on is following a specific timeline with
Yeah.
dating. You date for this long and then you get married, and then you wait this long to get a house, and then you have kids.
sure,
And
the
so, like,
formula to
I
follow,
think
right?
most of the couples talked about this to an extent.
Yeah,
It was obviously a big thing with Neil and Beth,
yeah,
that they were restricted by that rule of dating, that like if you date for a certain amount of time, it's expected that you get married.
sure,
And then same thing with Jamie and Beth.
Yeah.
And then they were like talking about forgetting about having kids, and you know how he was like, "We're not quite to that stage
Yeah.
yet." And so I think that she had that path in mind where they were dating a certain amount of time in college.
right, it's time,
And
right?
she's like, it's time to get married, you have to get married when we're done. And then it's now we have a house, so now we're should be talking about having kids.
Right.
So it's like, it's not very strict rules and timelines, what you're supposed to follow.
Yeah, and I think that's something like people feel that pressure a lot too, right? Of like, oh, we've been together this long, we should do this, we should do that. How about, and one thing I think this movie could do better, there aren't any like same-sex anything in this movie, right? Like, that's one thing I think we could do a little bit better on. So as we're talking about these rules, it's all I keep thinking in the back of my mind, like, how are they potentially different? And we have a little bit, like, we have like the couple of gay guys that are in there, but like, that's like the one thing. You had your hand,
Yeah,
Jen,
well,
thought before
yeah,
me.
you made a good point about like it just all being heterosexual
Yeah.
relationships. I was thinking when you mentioned that like she was like, okay, it's kind of trying to have kids now, I did think it was also interesting how they were kind of setting up, like, their, conversation on the boat.
Mhm.
Like, it was like, oh, the girls wanna get married, but like, the guys never really do.
Sure,
And they're just kind of having to like appease the girlfriends, like,
Yeah.
by getting married, so, yeah, I just thought that was like.
yeah, right, of like, oh, we've been together long enough, I gotta make them happy, or
Yeah.
accuse them, and it's like getting married. Right, then there were a couple of hands that we kind of jumped to, yeah,
Because you mentioned that there wasn't really any sex stuff.
yeah,
How does it, like, how does it apply
Right.
in real life? I feel like my experience, because I'm more masculine presenting,
Mhm.
so when I've been with girls, they always expect me to do the first move, and most of the time that is the case,
Mhm.
right? Because also I feel like if I were to make the first move, I don't wanna seem like a predator in a way, it's like this weird mindset I have. Right, so yeah, you gotta have this balance, but it's definitely been, it has like that same heteronormative rules,
yeah,
you know.
right, of who's the man in the relationship,
Yeah,
right,
because
or the
I'm not a
masculine
man, I'm not,
Right,
but yeah.
but the interesting expectation of like, well, since you're the masculine one, right, that you have to then fit that role, right, there were a couple other, did you have a thought on this?
Oh, I was gonna touch on the, how do you think it changed, like, I think it's changed like a little bit, but I think it's still
Yeah,
pretty prevalent because it's really funny because I'm in college, it's obviously not set for any like big life moments, it's like getting married or like financial space to do that, but like because I've been protected for years, I had people be like, so when is he gonna propose?
Yeah.
Are you guys gonna get married? You've been together this long and you're still not married.
Right.
Like, I'm 20, like if I'm 21,
Right.
like it's not.
I'm not there yet.
I'm not there yet,
Yeah.
and it's crazy that that's the expectation just on how long and not your life circumstances, and then
Mhm.
it's just expected no matter what.
Yeah, it is, there's that formula, right, yeah,
I think that's why like relationships are so, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like, it just applies from person to person. It
Yeah.
really doesn't have a spectrum.
sure,
I've been with my boyfriend for about 3 years now. Marriage is not on our mind. That is not where we want to be.
Yeah.
We want to be like, for us, it's like we want to be able to live together first, see how that's like, and then like later, and then when we get like real, like a job and all that. But it's like, I know other people who are getting married later this year. They're the
Yeah,
same as
I
me.
know some
So it's like,
That's
for me,
so
it's like, oh, that's crazy. I already know people who have families
Yeah.
and like whole life set up. So it's like, relationships move at the pace that you need them.
yeah. And it works when you have two people who want the same pace, right? But then you end up with problems like they ran into, where one person wants one thing and one wants something else. That's where it gets tricky. Yeah, I married my partner fast. It's like, I'm taking her off the market, right? Like mine, right? Like I'm possessive though, right? Yeah.
Oh, two really quick things.
Yeah.
I have a friend who got married when she was 20, her husband's 21.
Mhm.
Neither one of them want kids, and both their families like, so when are you guys gonna have babies?
Yeah.
So, yeah, the time will push forward no matter what.
Right.
And then also, I feel like the gay characters kind of almost existed like a dating hotline to
Yeah.
talk about, like,
They were like the drama, like,
No,
in the
right.
dating, yeah.
how are you doing? And like, no, not about me, nothing ever about me.
I love the girl on speaker.
Right.
Girl on speaker, yeah.
I was gonna say, one of the things I think is a big reason why there's like such a push to get married young is because like for a long time, people would wait to have sex for marriage, like there's like an expectation, and my family is very religious, very like conservative, I'm not, but they are.
Mhm.
And so like the community I grew up in, people get married really young because they wanna have sex, but don't wanna do that outside of marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I feel like there's generally like that expectation, like people in the community are like, oh,
Mhm.
especially if they're like older or like are used to like those norms.
Yeah, that's fair too, yeah.
This is more included in the book as a rule. Well, I also included it in my worksheet, is if he's not sleeping with her.
Yeah.
he's not interested. And I think that's changed quite a bit. I feel like sex isn't really a centered point in a lot of relationships. Or maybe they are, but at least the ones I know of, sex
Sure.
isn't really centered. And I think that's kind of changed over time, because you know, some people like don't wanna have sex. That's fine.
Thoughts on that? I mean, anyone agree, disagree, thoughts here?
To build on that, in today's generation, hookup culture is like a very big thing.
Right.
So if a girl is told like, oh, if he's sleeping with you, he's interested in you, that might lead her the wrong way because he might only want to be with her because of their sexual relationship.
Sure.
And he doesn't actually want a relationship with her, and then her hearing that kind of rule is like gonna lead her astray and think that he wants something when in reality he doesn't. So I
Okay,
think like in that way, it's changed with the hookup culture today.
yeah,
But yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah, you're talking to the.
Going off of that, I just think that's so frustrating. It's like, you know, hookups have become so like sex has just become so normalized and expected almost that like a lot of the time, like when I was single, and I would be trying to talk to guys, you know, like trying to, you know, find someone else, it would always be like, oh, so like, when are we gonna hook up? And I was like, I don't wanna do that, but then it's incubus. But then, you know, I've worked with a lot of males who talk about like, they're like girls at the top too, and like just talk about women and how if the girl sleeps with them too young, that means that they're a whore, like a slut. They're no longer like something that they would want to pursue because they gave in too easily.
Okay.
But then those same guys are also like, oh, but if they don't get with me, then I lose interest.
A little bit of a like unwinnable situation there. Did you have a thought on that too, where you?
Not specifically on that point, I just was thinking in general with all of these rules, like, I feel like it messes with the girls and guys, like, this intuition about, like, I feel like if with setting all the rules aside, you can tell, like, if someone likes you or not, and it gets a little bit more complicated, with, like, technology
Yeah.
and everything with that, but it's like, I think teaching would maybe know that there's maybe they didn't have a connection.
We should
but she's
pause
like,
for a minute to
right,
to
and
actually
she's
say,
like,
right?
like out hope,
Yeah.
because she's like, well, what if I wasn't yourself? Like,
Yeah.
so, I don't know, I do think there are some good things to pay attention to with some of the rules that we're talking about, but yeah, for the most part.
For sure, I would agree. Yeah.
Well, adding on to what she said earlier, it's crazy because as she said, there's so many guys who'll be like, oh, like, you know, well, just in general, like the people that go, if they sleep with you, like, they're into you, if not, if they don't, then they're not, but it's like, just because they sleep with you doesn't mean they're gonna be committed to you. And not only that, but as she said, it's like some people be like, oh, like, if you slept like this early, or if you slept with this many people this early, or you're known for this, then you're this, this, and this, but, and they'll be like, oh, you're so desperate, but also it's kind of like, aren't the guys who are saying like, oh, like, I wanna just, you know, hook up with you this one time, like, they're desperate too.
Mhm.
So it's really like a double standard, because people
Sure.
go, oh, well, she's so desperate, but it's like, you are too,
You are too.
you're sleeping with them. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
There's like this weird expectation of being an experienced virgin, like you can't have sex, like you have to be good at it, but if you're not sleeping with this one guy, you're a prude, but oh, God forbid you sleep with anyone else,
Yeah.
you're a slut then. So.
There are a lot of unwinnable situations here that we're kind of getting into. Ellie, you got your hand up here.
Yeah, I was just gonna add to what both of these people said about guys and like saying don't get hormones. It's funny because I've met a lot of guys, and also my friends have met a lot of guys that say this, that they let's say that the girl is a lock, right? The girl is a lock, and if anyone can unlock her, then it's like a bad lock. It's what is useless.
Yeah.
But the guy, the one saying that, has master key.
Right.
So that master key can go and unlock whatever lock it wants.
Uh-huh.
Right, so it's like, what the fuck, you know, like
Yeah.
how can I say that? And first they're comparing women to objects, you know, and so I think.
Which doesn't tend to go over, right?
No, I really believe that they are the desperate ones. If they don't get any action, then they like reverse it and say, and they're kind of like projecting, you know? That's what I think.
Yeah, again, all these like double standards, right? Here's one of my favorite rules, and this doesn't come up a lot in the movie, but I think it's an interesting one to talk about. What about who pays for dinner on the date? Right? So, thoughts on that? Like, are there rules? Oh, I like it. Right, you go, yeah. Okay, so for you, whoever does the asking now, I see some people nodding, like, okay, so whoever asked out, like,
I'm
okay.
asking for your time.
Okay. So if you ask, you should pay, in your mind, okay, yeah, we'll go here and then we'll go back, yeah.
definitely agree with that to an extent, like,
Okay.
if somebody is, if it's more, I guess, one-sided, but I think it's like a mutual thing, if you're both like, oh, let's go out with each other, and it's more of a conversation, then I think it's probably the best idea to split.
Okay.
However, like, I don't, it's a nice thing if somebody like offers, just as like a, I wouldn't necessarily take that offer, but it's like,
But you want them to
it's nice
offer.
to offer, yeah,
Okay,
cause I would also offer, so it's like,
so two kind
Yeah.
of different opinions here, I'll go back there and I'll you, yeah.
I heard someone say, oh, someone told me that, oh, it's like, it's the way how they grew up, but they say that no matter what, even if the girl or the guy, ever told out two people where, it should always be the guy.
Yeah.
paying. Yeah, which, that also when I was told me, but my dad told me, and my parents told me, like, it's whoever asked out who, like, if I invited someone out, then I pay. If they invited me out, then they should pay.
Sure, okay,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you were taught it should always be the guy, right, on some level,
Yeah, I'm still, yeah.
okay, okay.
But like, let's say for example, like the theaters, if they told me, and then like, we go and there's like, concessions, and obviously I'd buy popcorn, but like, other than that, like, maybe
I mean, you
they should
can't
give,
go to a movie without popcorn.
Yeah.
anyway.
but maybe they should give me my ticket.
Okay,
Yeah.
so a little bit of a balance, okay,
Yeah, I mean, they asked me out first, right?
okay,
So,
okay, yeah,
I'm gonna use what me and my boyfriend did as a
Okay.
reference. So we went 50-50 on the first date.
sure,
Cause like, you don't know if it's gonna work out or not, right? He was 50-50 for the first couple days, we were twins.
okay,
Now that we're in an actual relationship, it's very like split off, so he buys
Sure.
one time, I buy the next time.
yeah,
He buys one time, I buy the next time. But for special events, he insists paying for like our anniversary, my birthday. and-
Okay.
I pay for his birthday, but it's like, he's very insistent on, he says it's just like, he wants to be able to like, I don't know, he wants to be able to feel like he's doing something.
okay, other thoughts, yeah,
My relationship is the exact same as that.
Sure.
My boyfriend and I, our parents are very old fashioned.
Okay.
And we have kind of aligned our views with that as well.
sure,
So we always grew up with the idea that a gentleman should pay.
Okay.
Like, my mom always told me, like, you want a gentleman, like, you need a gentleman. You want someone who's gonna open doors for you, you want someone who's
Sure.
gonna pay for you, like, that's a good thing. And when my boyfriend and I first started dating, he paid for the first date, no questions asked, but even before my boyfriend, when I would go on a first date with someone, I'd always take out my wallet.
Right.
Just because I'm
Just-
willing to pay, but I do believe that a man should pay on the first date. But then after that, it's like a free for all kind of thing, like my boyfriend pays for the majority of the stuff, but every once in a while, I wanna treat him
Yeah.
because he does so much for me. And that's just like, I might get a little bit of heat for this and that's okay, but like, our relationship, we've agreed that he is the provider. And in return for that, like the money making, I'm gonna give him the family, like, I'm gonna stay at home with our kids. I'm gonna.
So you have an
raise our
arrangement,
kids, and
right?
he's
Like an
gonna
agreement.
make the money. That's fine. Okay with that.
So can I play devil's advocate? Right, what if there's no man? Like, what if it's two women who go out to eat, or there's two men, right, now what, now we have to find it out? So, again, right, like, these rules get a little bent sometimes, right, so what then, I think you have your hand up first, and we'll go back there, yeah.
So over the summer, I went on a lot of dates, right? And you go and do stuff. And I feel like the first date, okay, the first date, if I was just like feeling it out, it'd be we split the bill, right?
Okay.
Let's say I really like this one girl, like there's this one girl. And I took her to this like special place because I was like, I think I really like her. And I paid for it all, right? But the next time we hung out, she paid for it. And then after that, we split it in the middle. Sure. Right? So I feel like it's also kind of, if you ask out, but also equality, I believe that it should be equal, and balance. Sure. But then it's like, I feel like for me, it depends how much I like the person or how much I think I like the person at first, you know? if
This
I'm
is so
really-
complicated, right? Are you getting this?
Yeah,
Like-
it's complicated, it's
This is my favorite moment to watch. Whenever we go out to eat, I'm always looking around the restaurant for couples on dates. And I love to watch when the bill shows up because it's so complicated, right? And I love the like, I try not to be creepy about it, obviously, but I love watching. Like, I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen? You can often tell how long people have been together, how interested they are, how well the date's been, but all these things just by this one moment. And I love that you're explaining like all the stuff behind it.
Yeah.
Because it can be much more complicated than just like, you know, hey, go ahead. You had your hand up too. Did you have a thought?
Yeah, you can always do it the fun way where you rock the person first.
Sure.
Or you just put both of your payments on the table and you have the waiter choose who put it.
Oh, I know, that's fun when we do
Yeah.
that. Like,
It's fate.
yeah,
It's the universe picking for you.
okay, just look right here and then I'll work my way up. Yeah.
I was gonna find that, like, I think also finances has a big
It
thing
could,
to it.
yeah.
And like, where you're at financially and also what you enjoy, I guess, I would say. Because like after, like, being with my partners on the side with him, it is like, sometimes he'll have like a more steady flow of income and sometimes I will.
Sure.
Right now, just because we're students, so there's
Yeah.
different like times
Right.
and amount of time, so like right now, I have like a more steady flow of income, and also I have more like, I enjoy making food and stuff a lot, so I'll like make a lot of food and stuff, but he'll like pay for smaller outings, I'll like pay for certain things, because it just works
Sure.
better right now for how the finances work out, so I think that also has a lot that comes into play.
Yeah, especially I think when people have been together longer, or like, it's not the first date, right? Finances and your dynamic come into play. Yeah, and then I'll go over
When
that.
it came to my exes who are girls, it ended up always being like a race as to who gets their card onto
Yeah.
the scanner first.
Yeah,
There was also a lot of
which
like.
can sometimes
No, I
be cute,
got it.
right? You know, yeah.
No, I got it.
Okay.
No.
All the way down, good, yes.
I like the idea of whoever plans it, like, has to pay for it, but I am the only planner in my group of friends.
Oh.
So I'm usually the one instigating plans,
Sure.
and
You
I
know,
would
I always
like
do
to
it
pay,
also.
I would like to pay as much as I can, just because I like treating my friends.
Sure.
And everyone, but it just, sometimes it gets too much, and I have to like split it,
Yeah,
and it's painful.
that's fair, that's fair. Yeah,
I like the idea because the fact financing is a big part of my relationship.
Yeah.
Because my boyfriend makes like a lot more than me. Whereas in and out, so he makes like 22, I make like 16 something.
Mhm.
But he pays for his car and his phone and his insurance, so he pays for a lot more than I do. And so it's always about like, I've never had an issue like when, especially, I mean, our first date was at my house because I have very strict parents, and I didn't really have to even think about that, but when I would go out on dates with guys before him, I never had a problem. I just feel like, okay, this is paying. Like I would always bring my wallet because, you know, I was a high school kid, this is my first year of college, we're all broke. So, you know,
Your age and like where you're at matters, right? It does.
yeah, and so now we're just kind of like talking out, and I'm like, we'll do this thing where we just compare who has more money in our account.
Right? Where's he going and who wants to handle it, right? Yeah.
Where somebody who has like the white face still cap, I agree with you, but for, when it comes to, things like marriage, I have the thought of, I think if one person makes significantly more than the other, such as, let's say, one person is a preschool teacher, the other one's like a high-paid lawyer. I think in general, the lawyer should have a majority of the expenses. Just in a way that's like equal for their pay, so maybe it's worked off of a percentage instead of 50-50, because 50-50 doesn't make sense if it means that one person can afford to buy a new car if they want to, and the other person is like trying to figure out dinner.
Right, yeah, that's fair. And then the interesting dynamics that happen too, like if somebody pays, then sometimes you feel like you're like own something, right? Like the dynamics where that gets added into it, like, well, I paid, so I'm expecting X, right? Like that sometimes is a factor to consider, yeah.
I feel like that leads to some problems though, because I,
Right.
not
All of it.
if you're doing it like barely, but I've seen a lot of issues or a lot of couples that it's like, one's making a lot of money, but they both have long hour jobs that are both very, very difficult. But then the person with the lower paying job is also expected to take care of all the housework, the children, and like everything else going on. And like, that's another job on top of your job. And so it seems like it's like, even though this other person might be contributing more financially, like this other person's still like working extremely hard. And yeah, no, go for it.
I 100% agree, but I also feel like that has a lot, also like a gender dynamic.
It could.
A lot of jobs that typically tend to have women or men people tend to be lower paying jobs. Which that's full compensation. In short, I think that those jobs should get more. A lot of them are very needed jobs that don't get paid for reasons anyway. My example of this though is like my boyfriend's parents. She is a school teacher and he worked in insurance. He did not have as many hours, but was like making significantly more than her. She was teaching and taking the other kids and expected to make dinner and like do everything. And I'm like, you were doing everything for this man. Like, yes, he's contributing more financially, but it's just like,
Yeah.
it's not even workload like at all. So it's like, I feel like that leads into a problem to like housework dynamics.
Right.
Like, people should be contributing to housework even if you're contributing more financially.
I just think it's hilarious that all these like layers to this are happening in like a moment of like, here comes the bill. Right? Like all these, they just listen, everybody has like a slightly different opinion. Obviously, the key is you find somebody who like you mesh with your opinions, right? But let's go to a different one just for a minute, because I think this one's equally interesting, if not more so. The last question on this page. At what point do you think Ben is cheating on his wife? Yeah,
As soon as he starts hiding.
okay.
For when he's in that room and he's calling, like, why can't we be friends? And then he jumps when his wife comes in, you're immediately cheating on her.
Right.
Immediately, I consider that cheating on her because of why do you feel the need to hide her? Especially because he knows that he finds her attractive. And I'm not saying that men can't find women attractive and be friends with them.
Sure.
But clearly he cannot be. And he knows that about himself, but he's still setting up a scenario in which he can be alone with her, away from his wife, hidden away from her, so that something can happen between the two of them.
So pretty early for you, when he's like, when she walks in on him, calling in the room upstairs, right? He's kind of jumping in and whatever. Yeah, you're there.
So I believe that there's different levels of cheating. There's the scene in the market where he's like initially partying with her, that's micro cheating too.
Okay.
So I believe
Micro
that's
cheating,
cheating.
all right.
It's not cheating on his wife.
Okay.
When she was clearly flirting with him, he was talking back, responding,
Yeah,
still flirting with her, like, oh, like, here's my number, like, I can get someone to help you.
okay.
But not making it, not seeming professional, like, I'm a professional, you're professional, here's my number, contact me, but we'll stay in touch, I'll help you.
Mhm.
But it was more like, you're pretty, here's my number,
Mhm.
that's where I was like,
Yeah, so even earlier, right? And I tend to align with you. I would go way back to that first interaction. My rule has always been, if I wouldn't do it in front of my then there's something off with it, right? Like if I would be uncomfortable having that interaction in front of my partner, it's cheating. And she luckily feels the same way, so it works. But when you have very different definitions, it's where it gets tricky. I think you were next to your line.
Oh, yeah, I was agreeing with what you were saying, but yeah, like, I do agree, like, there's like kind of different levels, but back at the beginning, I think I would consider that cheating as well. But the main thing for me is like the dishonesty.
Sure.
Like, I've talked to like them about like my feelings on this before, because like I would be okay having like an ethically non-monogamous relationship and like as long as you're like open about everything that is going on within the relationship. But I hate dishonesty, like I cannot stand that.
Yeah. And she clearly had like this theme of dishonesty with the smoking, right? Kind of being like the symbolic thing with him cheating and like lots of layers to it. Yeah.
well, I was gonna say too, I personally think he started cheating. I mean, it was already suspicious at the grocery store, but I think when he full on started cheating was when like she was in his office or when he went to go see her, like doing her yoga session.
Yoga,
He kept
yeah.
saying like he was flirting with her and he was like, God, I'm so attracted to you. And it's like, no, like go back to your wife.
I love all your reactions to him. Like nobody likes this guy. Like clearly not. Yeah. Yeah.
I think they cheated the second that he was flirting with him in the place. Sure. He didn't physically cheat, but he emotionally cheated.
Okay.
Because he got the girl's number, he was flirting with her. He didn't tell his wife about it. it's not something that he would do in private life, so that's emotionally clear to me, like if my boyfriend flirted with another girl, wouldn't, I wouldn't hear about it, I would just fine, leave it there. But then he kind of redeemed himself a little bit when Anna called him to ask him out.
And he
And
posted
he
it.
said no, but then 3 steps back,
Right.
because he ended up calling me back and we all know what happened next.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
It was just always so like.
Yeah,
he, like,
back
knew
and
in
forth.
his head it was wrong.
But he couldn't control himself. Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm super jealous of a person, like, I can own that, right? My partner said she likes her principal, that she thinks he's a good principal, and I hate this guy. And recently, he's kind of failed with school, and I'm like, and like, we've been together 22 years in August, like, she's not leaving me for this random guy who's also married, and all these other things, but like, I'm insecure like that, right? And so the second she's like, I like this guy, I'm like, well, I hate him. As a side note, real quick side note, they had a trick or treat, like trunk or treat event this last year. And he was there to be pied in the face, and I got to high him. And it made me feel so good on the inside, right? He was all like, bet you can't hit me. I'm like, oh my god. Yeah, right. First time, right. Anyway, you had your hand up.
Yeah,
Did you?
no, like you could see he was wrestling, like he was trying to be good.
Yeah.
I literally, this movie made me hate her
Her, me,
Like-
hate her.
forever.
Janine do. Wait, who? Wait, Janine or Anna?
No, not Janine,
Anna.
Anna.
Okay.
Okay. Super technical.
Gosh, I'm so sorry.
So it made you hate Anna. Then he was
I
flirting.
I can't even stand watching a movie with her in it
Okay.
now. I don't know. I mean,
It's funny how that happens.
yeah, because she was like, even throwing herself at him, like it was like, bro, who knows?
Yeah. It's
I mean, I know
interesting
he
that-
has responsibility too,
Right.
very much,
But
but
she also wasn't helping, right?
she was,
Yeah.
ugh.
It's interesting that people thought you meant Janine and the
Sorry.
reaction.
No, not at all.
No, actually, it's really interesting because does anyone feel like she had some responsibility? Oh.
I do.
No, I saw some people go like this and some people go like this. It's like, I mean, any thoughts on that? Yeah.
I think it goes back into like question 8, which is like, what do you think makes a good relationship?
Sure.
And I said communication, because I definitely think that communication could have prevented, for lack of a better word, some of
Okay.
the things that happen in a relationship. Like, clearly, they only got into this relationship because she presented the ultimatum, was like, we're gonna get married
Right.
or we're gonna break up.
Right.
So then that rushed them into marriage, and then she was like, we don't have to decide, because neither of them are talking to each other about what the other wants.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that excuses any of Ben's actions, and I agree with you, I really don't like Anna, especially more, I don't like Mary, because she was like, oh, wait, you still have it,
Right.
who cares?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so I don't care about her plight for the rest of the movie, because how do you, oh. Cheating, but also I want a guy.
Right.
So, no, but definitely, I think that like, communication is so necessary in any relationship, it doesn't have to be romantic, it can be
Okay.
really any relationship.
So maybe not responsible, but playing a part in it.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, yeah, and then over there, and then there, yeah.
This is one of the, they're encouraging me to overshare. So different perspective here.
I've modeled
Perspective here.
oversharing for you, so I can't.
I am in a polyamorous relationship, so what is considered cheating is very, very, very different.
Yeah.
And so me viewing this question, I don't think like if he's like flirting with her in the store, I don't think that's necessarily cheating until he does not tell his wife immediately
Okay.
that it happened. Like my policy is like, if you find somebody attractive, like I don't want to be blindsided, so like you have to communicate that like, oh, that's
Yeah.
this person attractive. So that's like my perspective on it, is
And
like,
that's the boundary.
Yeah,
perspective,
so I
yeah,
think that
yeah.
he didn't necessarily start cheating like at the grocery store. I think that he did communicate that he was married when she asked for his number. So it was like, I don't know, that was iffy on that, but then I think it definitely became cheating when he did not say, oh, I had this interaction with somebody that was flirting with me at, like, even if it was kind of like jokey, like, oh, I'm flirting with the store. The fact that she knew nothing about this person, that's the cheating.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, it's great that you said that, right? Like, everybody has a different line, and if you have boundaries established in a relationship, right, whether it's one or like multiple, it doesn't matter. Breaking that boundary is where the line is, right? Yeah.
So, like, fluid, because I've been in situations where people have taken like what I've been saying, I'm like,
and I think I'm having a conversation with a friend, they take it a lot differently, and so I've had to like stop and be like, no, I don't like you like that.
Mhm.
And I feel like, especially not, like, in my opinion, like with guys, a lot of friendliness is taken as flirtation.
Sure.
So like when I'll be nice to a guy and I'll just be having a conversation, it's immediately taken as like I want him, or like I want to like start something with him, and I'm like, no, like, I'm just being nice.
Just
to
being
you, like, I'm
friendly.
just treating you like a human.
Yeah,
And
Okay.
I think that's just like a big thing, so I wouldn't really count flirting as cheating. I feel like in that, I wasn't here for the first day when you guys watched the movie, but after everybody, like, how he approached it, he obviously knew and had the intention of flirting. So I feel like that's definitely iffy. I also agree with hiding things from your partner, but yeah, flirting's such a tricky thing, you know?
Yeah, oh, you had your.
I mean, it's like, one is, if I saw my boyfriend flirting the way Ben did, and they would both be obliterated by my laser.
I love it, okay.
In my mind, it's like, what are you, like, you're married to me, and you're calling someone a hot, sexy yoga, no. So, that's not flying, and I think that is for me where I kind of was like, and I think it's solidified with the fact that he called her after.
Yeah.
I mean, like, did she call him?
She called him and then he called her back later, yeah.
Oh,
But there's a little bit of back and forth, right?
But yeah, I think during that back and forth, a conversation at the grocery store, he had set the boundary, oh, I'm married,
Yeah.
but then when she found the loophole, he didn't stop her.
Mhm.
And I think that's where my mind is like, well, I don't like that.
Okay, so interesting listening to this, like a lot of you, there's like these emotional levels of cheating, right? For anyone, just like by show of hands, was it when they had sex? Like, is that anyone's line? Everybody was before then, right? It's interesting because some people, it's not until there's an actual physical act, right, that happens. And for other people, it's an emotional thing. Everybody has like a slightly different boundary, yeah.
Like she got me.
Yeah. Yeah, right. You might be the best friend I've ever had, right? Yeah, like you said, right? Yeah, I mean, like, that might be, like, so that was your line, like, of where it was crossed? Okay, yeah,
I kind of have a question for the class, and like the curiosity though, is what constitutes flirting?
yeah,
Because that's always been a tricky one in my book, because sometimes you can just be like having fun and being and having this fun energy flow with somebody, and that's considered flirting, even if you're not like saying things that are specifically flirty or like hitting on somebody, if that makes sense. Like if you're saying things that are specifically hitting on somebody versus just having fun.
sure.
Like,
And some
where
people
that-
are very, like, open, kind of flirty
Yeah.
people, like, very outgoing. Thoughts on, do you have a thought on that all the way back? Yeah?
Just like personal experience, like I am so oblivious, it's kind of like,
Right.
how are you not hiding?
Mhm.
Cause like, I'll come back from a hangout with someone and I'll be talking to my friends, my family about it, and they're like, they were flirting with you, I was like, what?
What are you talking about?
I have no idea.
Right, yeah.
It's happened multiple times.
And a lot of people are that way, right? Like if they're not on your radar, like, then you might not even conceptualize that it was flirty, yeah.
I explain because I'm a very openly flirty person,
Sure.
like with all of my friends, though, like that's just like, if I'm close to you, like I'm flirting with you.
Mm.
And, but like, it's weird then, because then no one knows like, when I'm actually
Right.
flirting with them, because
You
I'm
need a
just.
little sign that says I'm flirting.
I'm
now."
flirting. I'm
Right?
serious now.
It's interesting though, but like very different, like flirting with everyone oblivious, right? Like I tend to be oblivious, like as well. I'll be like, well, I'm not interested, so why would I ever think that's what it was? And I'm very friendly and it could come across that way, not how I would mean it at all, right? And if my partner was flirting like that, like we wouldn't work, right? Because I'm insecure and possessive, right? I can do that, right? That's fine. And it works because she's possessive and not flirting. So we work, but like the difference where it gets tricky, you know, somebody who's really openly flirting and then somebody who's really possessive and insecure, that's gonna be a problem, right? And yeah, and like it's a problem, right? Yeah.
I think it's really a case-to-case basis because
like the way I talk to like some of my coworkers, I'm like Angel, of course gorgeous, of course babe, 100%, don't even worry, hon.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I talk to some of them, and
Sure.
like they reciprocate that and everything. But also if I was like going to flirt with someone, I'm going to use those exact names in the same tone I use there too. I'm not
Okay.
flirting with my coworkers. It's just kind of like understood to be like, oh, this is how we're going to talk right now, this is what we're going to do.
Okay.
But also when I am attracted to someone, I'm also going to use that same kind of like simpering tone with them. It's
Oh,
like,
this is so complicated. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
I think intent definitely matters,
Sure.
like. There's a lot of people who are just like flirting with their friends
Mhm.
and whatnot, which is like. Totally fine if it's just like for like shits and giggles, I guess. But yeah, it's the intent, like if you wanna get something out of it, then that's the.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's the feedback also, like you guys are saying,
Mhm.
there's like, especially internal experiences, I've had a lot of friends who have very short personalities and you would not be able to tell the words apart, you
Yeah.
know? But I feel like for me, it's when he gave her his number, knowing that, that's something he might go through with.
Sure.
And for that, I'm interpreting that with the line of, oh, but I have a wife. Why do you sound sad about that?
Yeah.
You know,
And his opinion of marriage got worse and worse throughout the movie, right?
and I
Yeah.
think that if you really, like, the fact that he sounded so sad about it also implied that that's not something his wife would be okay with.
Yeah.
Which is like, if she was, go for it, you know?
Yeah.
But I think all of that like combined and then like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the problem was when he followed her out of the store after they had paid, because when he gave her his spot in line, that was him being nice.
Yeah.
And he could have just left it right
It could have stopped
and then
there.
they could have gone their separate ways, but he continued to follow her out and have a conversation with her outside of the grocery store.
Sure.
And right then and there, when he followed her out, we all know he wasn't planning on telling Janine about it,
Mhm.
and he went even further to give her his phone number
Okay.
or whatever happened, and
Yeah.
even if she gave him her phone number and he took it, like, that's still, like, why are you doing that? Why are you don't need her, or what purpose is she gonna serve in your life when you
Sure.
already have a wife? So I think that had he not followed her out of the store, he wouldn't have emotionally cheated, like, whatever, but I think the problem was when he walked out of the store with her and had that conversation.
That intention is yeah.
This is just a little bit of a side note. I think it's absolutely wild that when he did like eventually tell his wife, he was almost like eager to get out of the marriage. Like you
Yeah.
could tell because he was like, I just assumed you'd want me out. He was almost
But
like,
then no resolve to
Yeah.
like, yeah, most awkward Home Depot moment. Right? I love that, like you're telling me this in Home Depot, right? Like of all the places to do it, right? In the Home Depot, right? Yeah.
Question all the way back when you said that, like, did Janine have a partner? I don't think she did, but I kind of got a sense of their relationship, because I think that was the first scene I saw of them, was something where she like refused to really react to
Okay.
what he said. And she was kind of like, well, do you want to make it work? And he was like, yeah, and she was like, okay, and then
Let's go look at the girls.
I know, and I was like, I don't know, I feel like in a way, I don't support at all what he did, but it almost felt like he wanted a reaction from her.
Yeah.
Like he wanted.
He wanted out, I think, in some
Yeah.
ways, but then caved in.
Yeah, he wanted out, but at the same time, I almost felt like maybe the cheating could have been like, he just wanted some attention. Like, he was like a kid acting out to get
Yeah.
some attention, and so that's why I was kind of like, oh, well, I don't think she, in any way was her fault. It kind of seemed like where his side of things, I don't know.
Do you think any of these people have a good relationship? Any of them? Yeah, I mean, like, what do you think? Like any of them? Like, say who? Like, you think anyone? Like,
Yes.
Neil and Beth? Anyone other than Neil and Beth?
KG and Alex.
Yeah, I mean, it helps at the end. Yeah, and then you don't see a lot of like Mary and Connor, right, that might be interesting, right, and I mean, I think we could agree that obviously Ben and Vivian's relationship, I mean, it ends up like splitting, right, but, and Neil and Beth, they have some issues too, I mean, how do you feel about that ending? Are you happy with the fact that he proposed to her at the end? Did that make you mad? Like, what do you think? Yeah,
I was honestly, I was surprised, but at the same time, I was not.
Yeah.
Like, I actually thought there were like their conversation when she like went to him in the boat
Mhm.
and was like, this is what I want from you. And he was like, absolutely, like, I'm committed to you.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, oh, okay, like Beth just needed more of that, I guess, reassurance that it was like 7 years, but like, yes, I'm totally in love with you, like, life partners. And fine, like, maybe she would get a ring too. Like, I, when he kind of proposed with the ring, I was like, okay, cool, like, they'll wear their rings, but maybe not be like actually legally married.
Okay.
Because I think that that's a very, like, both parties need to be on the same page
Sure.
about that.
And that
So,
was their issue, right?
yeah, so I kind of wanted to hear more about why Neil was like, okay, fine. But like what changed for him?
Sure.
You see them getting married on the boat, and like, of course they look happy, but
It was
I don't
smooth
know.
with the ring in the pants. I was like, oh, smooth,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah.
like that. Yeah, but I wanted more too, like what his perspective, her perspective.
yeah,
I
like
think
why?
that's something that could have worked
Did-
through, right, in a different way. Yeah.
I think the one part where we actually get some of why Neil might have changed his mind is when he's on the boat with Ben. And
Yeah.
Ben's saying all these horrible things about marriage, and you can see Neil's like, I don't actually think that, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't really feel that
I just
way.
love that.
And I think that's the little like crumbs we get of him being like,
Sure.
oh, there you go.
Mhm. Okay, I'm not sure who was next. I want to say with you, yeah.
I mean, I think. Okay, like. Okay, so Janine, like. Made Ben marry her, right? Beth was willing to walk away if in the beginning, and like he came back, so it was like his decision at that point.
Okay.
So I think he just, I'm talking about Neil, sorry.
Too many people, right? Too many
ADHD
people.
really bad.
You're all right.
So Neil, he came to that place on his own, like I think out of love for Beth, but not like. Not because he needed to, like it ended up being something he wanted.
Okay.
to, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Sure. So like some of the stuff behind it, like that he came to it rather than
Yeah,
being
like he
pressured.
worked.
I wanted her to say no. Like I did, like, I don't know, part of me wanted her to be like, you know, you caved, so I'm gonna cave and like, we'll meet in the, I don't know, I like wanted her to say no, yeah.
I like the comparison that was brought up between Beth and Neil and Ben and Janine, because the difference between the two of them, like she said, Janine and Ben didn't have a conversation about their feelings towards marriage.
Yeah.
Janine was just like, marry me or we're done.
Mhm.
Whereas Beth and Neil actually did have a conversation. Beth expressed how she felt and how she wanted to get married, and Neil expressed how he felt and how he wanted to get married.
And they worked through it in the end,
Yeah,
right?
and I think that ultimately, like, they saw each other's views and they understood that, and then they had that little time apart during her sister's wedding and her dad's heart attack. And I think that they both, well, Neil realized like, oh my gosh, I can't live without this girl. Like,
Right, I wanna
wanna
make
be
her
with my
happy.
whole life.
Yeah.
And Beth realized, I can't live without him, like, if we don't get married, that's fine, like, at least he's mine, at least I have him with me in my
Yeah.
life. So I think that it was cute how they both like decided to do what the other wanted to do.
Yeah,
And then in the end, like, obviously they got married, which was nice, but I'm happy that they did that, and I think that
yeah,
it worked because they had communication and they were able to talk about it.
yeah, I think they communicate fairly well, yeah.
With Alex and Gigi, I liked how messy they were,
Yeah.
but the kiss scene was so awkward.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right? No, cause like, I think that consent can be nonverbal, that's risky when you don't know someone. You haven't established a romantic relationship with them.
Sure.
So the fact that she didn't know what nonverbal consent even looked like on him yet. And then she moved forward, and then he was like, oh, I was uncomfortable with that. She doubles down, it's like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Wild to me.
Okay.
And then the fact that she got like the cool music of like, I'm in the right, and got to storm off, I'm like, what was that? Like, I don't know, I've had guys act like that to me before, it's like no. What do you mean? It's so bad. Like, once again, I liked their ending. I just wish, I think you could have had that ending and still, I think you could have had all of those scenes. If you retracted the music from She's With Him, and then
Because it got to you, right? Yeah.
right, and also they had like a conversation with that. I think that's fine, because they were always gonna be messy, you know? It's just odd that the movie was like, nah, she's right. I'm like, what do you mean?
Mhm. All right,
That's all.
last couple of thoughts and then we'll move on, yeah.
Sorry, touching back on what you were saying earlier with Jimmy and like whether or not she was at fault here.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because we don't actually know what the conversation was or how she like brought up like we're gonna break up, we're gonna get married. Even though like I don't think that's necessarily, I don't like ultimatums and I don't think that's necessarily a good way to go about moving a relationship forward. But at the same time, I find myself relating to her a lot in other ways, like throughout, the main thing she's upset about is whether or not he's smoking.
Yeah.
And even when he tells her that he's cheating on her main thing is
So,
smoking.
you were
Because
smoking.
I think like for her main thing is like honesty.
Yeah,
And so that's why I was like relating to her a lot, because like if somebody was being honest to me about something that they did
yeah,
and apologizing for it, then I would probably be more willing to forgive them than something that they continue to lie about over
Sure.
and over and over again.
sure.
And that's like when she finally leaves him, it's because like she finds out, oh my gosh, he's still smoking
Yeah.
despite lying to me.
I don't know, I still don't know if he was smoking or not.
I know.
I still don't, I
It's
think,
weird,
still, I don't know, I don't know.
I think so too, because what I was gonna say though about Ben is I think we need more context on the conversation because he's such a toxic
Yeah.
people pleaser.
Yeah.
And he kind of just says whatever he needs to say in the moment with anybody in order to get the outcome that he wants, or like feel like he's pleasing them, even though he doesn't really actually care. And so I feel like maybe if they had that conversation, it wasn't so much of like as much of an ultimatum, but he probably was also like, yeah, I'll marry you, like, that sounds exciting. Like, I feel like he was lying to her about his
Yeah.
enthusiasm about getting married as well, because that's what he's done throughout. Like, even when she comes into his office to have sex, and Scarlett Johansson, Anna is in the other room, and he still does it just to people please, even though he doesn't want to be with her. So it kind of shows that I feel like he would lie about his readiness to get married.
Sure, sure. All right, last two, the 1 and 2, yeah.
Honestly, like, I just made me feel like he, like, I don't know, in my opinion, the way he treated her and the way he reacted to it all was like, that was the end. But then all of a sudden, after she like spelled it out to him, he was like, oh my God, I'm suddenly in love with her. Like, I don't know, I felt like I was kind of, I didn't like it, especially because like, she was like, okay, well, I put myself out there, I'm moving on. And he was like, oh, no, like, come back to me, like, I miss you. I don't know, that's weird.
Yeah.
But I also just like Neil and Beth was like, there was like the act of compromise. Somebody said it over here, was like, she was like, okay, I won't marry you, I just want to be with you. And so then he compromised too, and was like, well, I want to be with you, and I know marriage is important, I don't understand it or whatever. Like, I feel like that act of compromise is what made the marriage in the end okay.
Okay.
Just because he already showed like,
He was willing to
that
do
he
it,
was
right?
willing
Yeah,
to
yeah.
not marry him, so he was like, okay, well, that shows like she really truly loves me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're meeting in the middle as best as they could, right? Yeah.
So, with Neil and that, I think that, I don't know, people like to push that, like, getting married is like the sign that you're,
Sure.
and I think that was the reason why Beth was like, I need to get married like that.
Yeah.
It's like confirmation.
And with her sister
Yeah.
getting married and all that too.
It's like confirmation that it's like, oh, so this is what the end goal is, like this is where true love is. While Neil is like, oh, I think this is where we are right now.
Okay.
Another thing is, I also agree with the fact that we've never seen a conversation between Ben and Janine. I think Ben is an unreliable narrator. It doesn't matter, like, in my mind, it doesn't matter if he's a people pleaser or not. He does not like his wife at that moment. He has been with Anna. That in my mind is like, okay, obviously we don't know anything about, right? What if Janine was like, okay, like, this is like, I want to get married. If that's not okay with you, then I don't think gonna work out, you know, like maybe this is like where we need to be, whatever, right? Maybe it's not as like an ultimatum as like you put it, like, we get married or we break up now,
Yeah, we need that backstory, right? We need
I
a
think-
sequel, a prequel.
So, yeah, I think Ben is like not super reliable when it comes to coming back to that conversation. We've never heard Janine's version of it.
Sure, and I'm not sure he's reliable, period, right? Right, like, yeah. All right, if you want to make sure your names are on those, go ahead and pass them up and I'll take them for you. I love so much all of the thoughts of it. I think this is a really great movie.
Neil and Rachel, right? Sorry.
Neil and,
You mean Rock and Rachel?
what was that?
Neil and Rachel. Oh, Neil and that's, okay, I get it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Oh, so it's. Then we're on a break.
Neil and Beth. Well, like, who's Rachel?
Yeah, Rachel.
Gotcha. Yeah, it took me a minute, though. So, a couple of things here. Oops, let me close this. So, I'm not gonna lecture on chapter 9, because I feel like we kind of covered a lot of these themes through the movie of like dating, the technology stuff, the rules, like a lot of those things, marriage, right? So make sure you look over chapter like 9 on your own. And I kind of put 8 and 9 together because they segue into each other quite a bit. The only thing that adds, so there's a little bit like obviously about like child and infant sexuality and then like the sex talks and stuff that come when you're a little older. Can I share a funny story with you though, related to this? I have to tell you. So I have 10-year-olds and a 12-year-old, right? And it's long overdue. We had the sex talk with them like a month ago, okay? And it was like the most hilarious thing that I think I've ever heard in my life. My 10-year-olds, so my daughter Paisley who came in here, right? So we went back and we were like, okay, we're gonna sit down with them. And my partner was like, you're gonna lead it. You teach human sexuality, you're leading it. Okay, which is not normally our role, but I led it. And my daughter Paisley, we were like, so what do you know about like sex? Right? That's how we started. And my daughter looks at us and she's like, well, you get pregnant when you sit on somebody's lap. No, it gets better. That's why Santa has so many elves. I'm so everything I have in my life. She was all like, well, because everyone sits on his lap and that's why we have so many elves.
What does that even mean?
I was like, oh my God, it is so far to go in this conversation right now. So I just had to share that with you because I've never heard anything so like funny and like wildly inappropriate and innocent. I don't know. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I was like, how many times have you sat on Santa's lap? Nothing happened, right? Like, what the, like, where did that come from? Like, so random. But anyway, so I just had to share that with you as like a funny side note. But obviously, again, look over this chapter. There's a little bit like related to like adolescent sexuality and then a lot with like adult sexuality and dating and rules and all this stuff that we just covered. So where we'll go from here is we're going to go to chapter 3, which is on communication. So that'll be the next chapter and then we go to 7. So on Wednesday, we'll start with chapter 3 right away. And we'll get into that a little bit more, but I just want to thank you again for all of your wonderful like thoughts and comments. And really like you made the movie fun in a way that like I enjoyed your reactions more than the movie, right? I went home and like raved about it. I was like, oh, they're so funny. So what we'll do again, we'll pick up on Wednesday. I'll stop here for today rather than start for like one slide. We'll stop here and we'll pick up on Wednesday with chapter 3. Okay. So have a wonderful rest of the day. It's like sunny. It's weird that it's sunny, but I'll see you all on Wednesday. Okay.